Welcome one and all to the latest edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. Coming up on today's podcast, the latest on the injury report, and you actually have a team in the Texans that has been as plagued by injuries as the Browns have. They're the two most injury-plagued teams in the NFL this year. So it's fitting that they're playing each other in the first round. We'll talk a lot to get into with the matchup. I'll make the official pick on the podcast on Thursday, but a lot inside of the matchup, who may play, who may not play this week. That's all coming up, including some big news on Browns kicker Dustin Hopkins. Also, Mike Vrabel fired by the Tennessee Titans. Another coach opening there, but what should Ohio State be doing right now about Mike Vrabel? That's all coming up on today's edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers.
You're watching Adam the Bull on the Bet Rivers Network.
Get extra value this football season with Bet Rivers Squares. Win up to $10,000 in bonus money. Bet $10 in same-game parlays on any game with the Squares icon to earn a square. All right, let's start it off looking at the latest point spreads from Bet Rivers on our sports book right now. The Browns, which is the first game of the postseason, are a 2.5-point favorite over the Houston Texans. That line has bounced from anywhere from 1.5 to 3, right now at 2.5. The Saturday night game, the Chiefs are a 4-point favorite over the Miami Dolphins, expected to be bitter cold in Kansas City. Sunday triple header, the Bills host the Steelers in the first game there in a 2-7 matchup. The Bills are a 10-point favorite at home against Pittsburgh. The 4:30 game on Sunday has the Cowboys as a 7.5-point favorite, NFC East champs, over the Packers. And the Sunday night game has the Lions, the champs of the NFC North, as a 3-point favorite over the Rams. And finally, the worst game of Wild Card Weekend, Monday Night Football, the Buccaneers, the champs of the NFC South, and Baker Mayfield hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are a 3-point road favorite. Who's going to win all the games? Well, I'll give you some official picks on Sunday, but let's dive deeper now into the game we care most about, and that's the Browns and Texans. First of all, today was the first day of practice for both teams, getting ready for the big matchup on Saturday afternoon. The calendar's a little different this week. Usually Tuesday in the regular season is a day off for the players, but with the game being Saturday, no day off here. And the Browns spoke yesterday. Kevin Stefanski does not usually speak on Tuesdays, but he did today. And that's why I want to do the podcast later in the afternoon as opposed to in the morning a lot of times where I do it, because we definitely have some important updates from Tuesday. Let's start with one of the biggest ones, and that's Dustin Hopkins. We know Dustin Hopkins has been one of the best kickers in the NFL. He has been huge for the Browns. They picked him up for a 7th-round pick from the Chargers, and he has been worth a whole lot more than that. Dustin Hopkins has been absolutely phenomenal. He's missed 2 field goals all year. He has not missed over 50. He's only missed 2 extra points. He's made every big kick that the Browns have needed him for in every big spot. But unfortunately, Dustin Hopkins, who hurt his hamstring 3 weeks ago, will be out. I shouldn't say 100%, but Kevin Stefanski speaking today said, quote, he will most likely be out for the Texans game, which means Riley Patterson, who the Browns picked up, he's been on the practice squad the last couple of weeks, filling in for Dustin Hopkins. He missed a field goal in his first game, made his only field goal this past game. Riley Patterson, he kicked obviously for Detroit earlier in the season. He will be the Browns, or most likely be the Browns starting kicker in Saturday's game. Now, there's no way you could have as much faith in Riley Patterson as you would in Dustin Hopkins. Doesn't mean he won't make his kicks, but from a decision-making perspective from Kevin Stefanski, it's something to look for in this game. Kevin Stefanski is aggressive by nature. He likes to go for 4th downs. He will often in the past pass up on what some people would describe as a taking the point situation to go for a 1st down or a touchdown. With Dustin Hopkins, he went away from that a little bit. There were more times where he attempted field goals a couple of times where he attempted field goals where I think in the past he would not have. And that's because Dustin Hopkins became so clutch and he had 100% faith in him to make those kicks. Not the case. There's no way he has that same level of confidence in Riley Patterson. And so I expect that to potentially be a factor in this game. It's something to look out for. So that's a negative. There's nothing you can do about it. It is what it is. Hopefully, if the Browns take care of business and beat the Texans, hopefully they'll get him back the next week. Now, it's certainly not a positive sign that he's basically been ruled out on Tuesday. That doesn't give me a ton of hope for next week. But, listen, they wouldn't play the next game for at least 11 days from now, maybe 12. And so we'll hold out hope for that. First, you got to get there. But obviously not great news here. Hopefully Riley Patterson can get the job done. Now, let's talk about some other guys who have either missed time or got banged up in the last game. Let's start at wide receiver. For the Browns at wide receiver, Cedric Tillman, who went in concussion protocol after a hit against the Bengals on Sunday. He remains in concussion protocol and was not at practice. Kevin Stefanski, though, said, quote, "I'm feeling really good about the rest of the wide receivers." Now, Amari Cooper, who you remember did not play on the Thursday night football game against the Jets, and of course didn't play this weekend against the Bengals, did not practice today. However, the fact that Kevin Stefanski, who really doesn't give you much in these press conferences, said he feels really good about the rest of the wide receivers outside of Tillman, who sounds like is trending towards not playing. Although I think a lot of fans right now don't want him to play with his poor route running that we've seen the last bunch of weeks. That gives me a lot of confidence that Amari Cooper, dealing with obviously he hurt his ribs earlier in the season, about that midway point, and he more recently had the heel injury that kept him out of the Jets game. It sounds like he's trending, even though he didn't practice today, towards being able to play this Sunday. I was surprised that he didn't play against the Jets. I will be floored beyond belief if Amari Cooper does not play in this game. That would be a huge problem. But fortunately, it sounds like he's going to be able to go. Let's talk about the backup quarterback situation. Hopefully something we will not have to worry about at all. Last week, Jeff Driscoll got the start ahead of P.J. Walker. He did not play well. Now it was a situation where they were playing with a bunch of backups against a pretty good starting lineup, or a decent starting lineup in Cincinnati. And so you got to take that with a grain of salt. When Kevin Stefanski was asked today about the backup quarterback situation, he said, quote, "We're working through all of that." So even if it's possible the decision's been made, but he's not sharing that with the rest of us. Maybe he hasn't even made the decision yet. Who knows? Hopefully it will not matter. Hopefully every offensive snap the Browns take this year in the playoffs will be with Joe Flacco under center or some gadget play, and not if PJ Walker or Driscoll have to play for the Browns, we've got huge problems. So hopefully it won't matter. In the end, I guess I've kind of been talked into leaning towards PJ Walker as the backup. I think it's pretty much a toss-up, though. Neither guy is any good. Another guy didn't practice today, Kareem Hunt. Not a shocker. He's missed a lot of early week practices this year. I expect Kareem Hunt to be able to go. He didn't play this past week. He has not missed a game due to injury. And coming off the street at early in the season after Nick Chubb got hurt, he has been durable, reliable. He's been banged up, and he's played through it all. And he's played a very important. He's not great, but he's been great in his role. And it's been an important role. He's been the short yardage goal line guy. He's done that effectively, and I would expect him to be ready to play this week. Finally, let's go to, one other running back note. Pierre Strong did not practice. The Browns will probably add another running back to the active roster because Pierre Strong got carted into the locker room last week. It was a back injury. It doesn't sound good for him at this moment, so we'll see what they do in terms of adding a third back to the roster. whether it's somebody off the street now or thinking about, I can't even think of who's on the practice squad right now for the Browns at running back. I think they have one. Let me look it up. Oh, John Kelly. That he's been around for the last couple of years. We've seen him in the preseason a lot. I forgot he was there. So we could see him get called up for this game in addition to the kicker, Riley Patterson. So actually, Riley Patterson's been added to the active roster now. So they wouldn't. So they'll call up Kelly, and we'll see what else they do. I assume you're not going to want to go with just 2 running backs on the roster. So either they'll call up Kelly from the practice squad, or I mean, at this point, you could sign a free agent that's out there if you like them as a third back. I mean, it's not like you need that much time. Probably not going to play much, if at all. But you want to have that third back there in case, something happens to Kareem Hunt. Obviously, he's been banged up. Jerome Ford's been banged up at times this year. So that's a factor as well. Now, finally, to the secondary. Juan Thornhill and Greg Newsome did not practice today. Greg Newsome, we haven't heard of anything new, so I assume he's going to be all right. Kevin Stefanski did say today that Grant Delpit could come off of injured reserve this week. This past Sunday was his 4th game on injured reserve. He's been fighting to try to come back. We saw Agbo Okoronkwo come back last week and play a little bit. He's going to be good to go with the harness. He actually practiced today. So we'll see about the safeties, the starting safeties in the beginning of the year. Delpit, Thornhill, both question marks as to whether they're going to play this week. Obviously, the guys who have filled in, led by DeAnthony Bell, Ronnie Hickman, have done a stellar job in filling in. And so you feel good if both Thornhill and Delpit can't go. Deron Harmon as well has done a nice job filling in. They've really, the secondary top to bottom has done a tremendous job, through the depth, including Cam Mitchell and Mike Ford at the corner. So that's the latest on the Browns injuries. I think the bottom line here is we're not going to see Dustin Hopkins. That's a big deal. The other guys who are trending towards not playing, Pierre Strong, Cedric Tillman, not huge deals, but they're guys who play. I mean, Pierre Strong's the third back. Cedric Tillman, Elijah Moore is back, which is good. He's going to play. He played a little last week. But Cedric Tillman's still, even with Elijah Moore, your third receiver. So we'll see if the Browns do anything in terms of free agency. The Dolphins signed a free agent today. We'll keep an eye on that and update you on the podcast Thursday, and certainly update you on UCSS on Wednesday. But as of now, this is what they're dealing with. But the biggest deal in terms of the injuries for the Browns is Dustin Hopkins. You'd like to see Delpit and Thornhill come back this week. I think they're okay without those guys. But, you want all hands on deck if you can get them. Getting Agbo back, getting Elijah Moore back. And I think Kareem Hunt's going to be okay. Looks like Amari Cooper's going to be okay. It's all really good news. Now, let's look at the Texans side of things. For the Texans, let's look at their wide receiver situation. We know their top wide receiver, Tank Dell, who's also a rookie, he got hurt about a month or maybe 6 weeks ago. He's out for the year. So Nico Collins, who had been there 2, is now there 1. He's done a great job. He's had an excellent season. Very good wide receiver, about 1,300 yards. I stand by what I said. I know I pissed people off in Houston, not as much as my man G. Bush, but I said he was good, not great. I don't think he's great. He's not an elite wide receiver. He's a very good wide receiver. Not dissing him. I'm just saying he's not, he's not Jamar Chase. He's not Justin Jefferson. He's not Tyreek Hill. He's not in that class. But he's a really good receiver who was developed this year with a good quarterback for the first time. He hadn't done much in his first 2 seasons. So he's their key guy. But Tank Dell gone for the year. With him gone, their second and third receivers have been Noah Brown, guy's been around a while but has had his best season, and Robert Woods, the veteran, has been around forever. Both of those guys did not play last week. And both of those guys did not practice today. Now, it's early. It's only Tuesday. And apparently Robert Woods was a game-time decision last week, so he was close. But that's something big to keep an eye on in terms of the Texans. Their number 2 and 3 wide receivers both missed last week, and both did not practice today. Also on the offense for the Texans, they're starting all-pro left tackle Laramie Tunsil and right guard Shaq Mason both didn't practice. although both are expected to play. On the defensive side of the ball, they are very banged up on the defensive line. Their entire starting defensive line, Will Anderson and Jonathan Grenard on the outside, Malik Collins and Sheldon Rankins on the inside. All four guys have been banged up, and none of those four guys practiced on Tuesday. Neither did the veteran rotational defensive end in Jerry Hughes. So I think most, if not all, those guys will play. Will Anderson's been really banged up, the rookie defensive end. He's had multiple injuries over the last few weeks. And Grenard, we know, got hurt against the Browns a few weeks ago. So we'll keep an eye on their D-line and I think the two offensive linemen that are hurt, those guys are going to be fine. Tunsil's playing through injury. He's going to play. But we'll keep an eye on their wide receivers and their defensive line, which is big for the Texans, no doubt, protecting their young stud quarterback, C.J. Stroud. Finally, we know it is time of the year where a lot of coaches get fired, a lot of general managers get fired. Well, today, the Titans made a move that I think is pretty stupid, firing Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel, one-time coach of the year, well over 500 for a Titans team that hasn't had a good quarterback the entire time he's been there. They got the most out of their roster. They went to the playoffs consistently his first 4 years. They had the one run to the AFC Championship game, I think, in his second or third year. And then they lost in the first round as higher seeds the 2 years after that. I thought this team under Vrabel the first 4 years overachieved. And I think the last 2 years they've lost some of the talent they've had. Some of their guys have gotten older and not as effective. And he's not the GM. So I can't blame him much. Now, they lost 24 of the last 32 games he coached. I'm sorry. They lost 16 of the last 24 games he coached. And 9 of his last 10 division matchups. So that's bad. And overall, a 2-3 record in the playoffs. But Mike Vrabel got the most out of that talent when they had some. And he's an excellent coach. And why you would fire him, I have no idea. I assume there'll be a lot of teams banging down his door to try to get him to go. The Chargers, maybe going back to the Patriots if the Patriots do fire Bill Belichick. Obviously, he is most known for being a Patriot. But one other option, how about the Ohio State Buckeyes? Now, I don't know Mike Vrabel personally. I know Jay Crawford, who I, of course, work with on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, knows him. And I know at one point he wanted to be a head coach at his alma mater. Now, things have changed in the last few years, and coaching college football has become a challenge with the NIL and the transfer portal. And I have no sympathy for anybody. The players are getting screwed for years, so I'm happy that they can do whatever the hell they want. But I wouldn't want to coach. It'd be a pain in the ass. And so Mike Vrabel may have no interest at this point in going back to his alma mater, and he obviously takes a lot of pride in being a Buckeye. Ryan Day is a good coach, but he's not a great coach, and he has failed in most of the big moments he's had. If I were Ohio State, I would make a ridiculous offer to Mike Vrabel to try to get him to come home. I'd probably offer him a 5-year, $100 million contract, which I think on a yearly basis would by far be the biggest contract in the history of college football, I believe. So I'd make him some ridiculous offer to try to get him to come home. Will it work? I don't know, especially if he has opportunities. In the end, college football is minor league football. It's good. The rivalries matter. It's exciting, but it's less what it used to be, and a lot of people don't like it as much as they used to. I've never been a huge college football fan, and I'm a much bigger NFL fan, so I'm a little biased. I wouldn't go to college if I were him, but if anybody can get him to college, the only team is Ohio State. But there'll be NFL teams that will be interested in him, and Mike Vrabel will be I'll be shocked if he's not a head coach somewhere for the 2024-25 season. And hopefully the Buckeyes can offer him a boatload. Back up the truck. Get the Brinks truck out there. Got a lot of rich alums at Ohio State. Let's go. Offer him an absurd contract. All right, that's it for today's podcast. Again, please hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate everybody watching and listening. Please hit the subscribe button. Give me the thumbs up for a like. Means a lot to me. Means a lot to the podcast. So always be with me here. You'll get your alerts for whenever we do a new podcast. We did a live event a couple weeks ago. We got it working on another one either later this week or next week. I'll let you know. Always check me out on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show as well. weekdays 11 to 1. All right? We'll talk to you next time. Thanks to Brian Monzo for producing. Where else but right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. See you, everybody. Brought to you by Bet Rivers. Bet Rivers, go Browns.